Hi fans of high quality entertainment. I don't know how I do that. Welcome to my latest video, which you are watching right now. I bet you didn't know that. On Facebook, which you might have heard of, there's this list going around asking people what are 10 albums, 10 important albums from your teenage years. And instead of me responding on Facebook, I thought I would respond on YouTube. And I would love your top 10 albums from your teenage years in the comment section below. And first of all, I'm not going to mention the Beatles because obviously it's the Beatles are the first band that I ever fell in love with. So they're obviously in there, but it's rather, I just want to talk about other bands. I'm tired of the Beatles. I'm joking. And there's actually 15 that I've listed, so the 5 that aren't in my top 10 but are still right up there are Sly and the Family Stone's Greatest Hits. That's right. I bet you didn't know I was a funky kind of guy. The Monkees, their debut album. I wasn't a huge Monkees fan, but when their debut album came out, I thought they were a real band. I do consider them, later on, they became a real band, but of course their debut album, it was mainly studio musicians on the album. But still, great songs, and so I was a big fan when that album came out. But they didn't misplace the Beatles. Oh no. Yoko Ono. The Who's Tommy. The Doors' The Soft Parade. I had only heard maybe Light My Fire, maybe a couple of other radio hits by them. That was the first album I ever heard, and my oldest brother, Bob, had the album, and he let me play his albums, unlike my middle brother. And so I love that album. It's, at one time, I think, for quite a few years, it was my favorite Doors album, and now I don't think it is. And I will do a ranking of the Doors albums if I haven't already. I don't think I have. So stay tuned for that at some point. I have so many video ideas, you wouldn't believe it. And Steppenwolf, At Your Birthday Party, a really underrated album band. I know they're mainly known for, I was going to say back in the USSR, for Born to Be Wild and a couple of other songs, but they made great albums. So here we go. These are 10 albums from my teenage years that I was at one point obsessed with. Some of them I'm not so obsessed with now, but I would say all 10 of them I still would enjoy listening to. The second band I really became a huge fan of after the Beatles was Grand Funk Railroad. And it was their, I think I heard maybe their second album first, I'm not sure. But the first one I actually bought with my own money because I had a paper route was Grand Funk's live album. And I love the raw energy of the recording. They obviously didn't go into the studio later and do audio trickery on it and fix it up or anything. I think maybe the crowd might be amped up a little bit in the recording though, like the audience, but I'm not sure. But that's still, I could still listen to it today and love it. And I met Mark Farner, the lead singer and guitarist in Belleville, Ontario, when he played at the Empire Theatre, shook his hand, got his autograph. That was cool. And then, these aren't actually in order, but these first two are actually. Black Oak, Arkansas. Do you guys remember Black Oak, Arkansas? High on the Hog. And I've mentioned this before. At the time, I didn't know what high on the hog meant. I didn't get it, that it was about being high. But I was absolutely obsessed with Black Oak, Arkansas. But it didn't last too long because their next album, Street Party, was a bit of a disappointment. I bought a few more of their albums and then gave up on them. And then, these are in order. Humble Pie, Smokin'. And live at the Fillmore, rockin' the Fillmore, I love that too. But Humble Pie's Smokin', once again, played it over and over and over, loved it. Now these aren't in order. Blue Oyster Cult, Secret Treaties, first album of theirs I heard. I thought the album at first listen was okay, except for Dominance and Submission, which I absolutely loved right away. But of course, on Further Plains, I loved it. It's not my favorite Blue Oyster Cult album, though. I think that's probably their debut album now. But Secret Treaties is number 2, maybe number 1, I don't know. It kind of changes, but it's one of my favorite albums. Led Zeppelin's debut album. And thinking back now, I might have actually heard Led Zeppelin 2 first. So maybe it's Led Zeppelin 2, but it's one of those 2 albums. I'm not sure. I think it was Led Zeppelin 2 that I heard first, so maybe I should say Led Zeppelin 2. So ignore the album cover I have here. I got this for Christmas the same time I got the Beatles' Abbey Road. And I loved it almost as much as Abbey Road. Creedence Clearwater Revival, Bayou Country, with one of my favorite all-time rock songs, Keep On Chooglin'. Now, being music crazy and not having a lot of money when I was a teenager, I would buy a lot of cutout bin albums, and most of them were terrible or just halfway decent. But once in a blue moon, I'd come across an album that I absolutely loved. And one of those was Canned Heat's Hallelujah. And that's how I got into a little bit of blues rock. And it's been a favorite of mine ever since. I still play it to this day. I think I've talked about this band once or twice in the past, and you've likely heard the story if you've been watching a lot of my videos. Sparks, Kimono My House. As I've said, first time I saw them on TV, I was like, what the heck is this? I might have sworn. Next day I went out and rushed out and bought the album anyway, because they were so weird. And I hated it. I threw it in the garbage, but I gave it a second chance. And it's now one of my favorite all-time albums. And I mentioned I'd be ranking the songs on it. That is coming up, hopefully this week. And the final 2. I was a fan of Uriah Heep. And the first album I heard of theirs was The Magician's Birthday. I absolutely loved it. Once again, obsessed with it, playing it over and over and over. And I also bought Demons and Wizards, which I loved just as much, or maybe even more. And then I bought a few more of their other albums, Wonderworld and whatever, but they just kind of lost it for me, just like Black Oak, Arkansas. So I was only a big fan of theirs for maybe a year or 2. But I still love the album. And finally, jeez, I have trouble talking. I haven't even had any wine. A Canadian band, the Guess Who. And once again, I'm thinking I might have the wrong album. I'm saying Share the Land because that's the first album of theirs I bought with my own money. But I might have heard American Woman first, that one of my brothers had. But for me, owning the album, it's Share the Land that I was more obsessed with. And to learn, I didn't know at the time until I'm reading the album, they're a Canadian band. It's like, and I was kind of proud of that. They're from Canada. So that's it. I hope you enjoyed the video. Thank you for watching. Bye-bye. Oh, and I'm almost at 30,000 subscribers. When I reach 30,000 subscribers, I am going to do a special video. It might be an hour-long video or close to it with all kinds of crazy stuff in it, and a giveaway contest in the video. That's right, I'm giving away something. And no, it's not one of my cats. Bye.